Can you believe the Bugatti Chiron is finished? The Tourbillon has been introduced. I was in Molsheim recently. We took a look with Matteo Rimac, president of Bugatti, to explore the new car, but it couldn't leave without a bang which we're going to be exploring today. I am out here in Connecticut in the United States, and these are the Bugatti Chiron Extremes. The Chiron Super Sport to my right in the blue carbon, the Pure Sport to my left with the red accents and details. We are of course here with Sparky 18888, VTM the King, Scott Smith and the team to check out these two cars. We're going to be taking them out today to go out for a little run and to understand what makes these cars, which were the very final two Bugatti Chirons to leave the Atelier in Molsheim, quite so special. Hi guys, I'm Shmi, hello and welcome back to the channel. Let's take a look at the Bugatti Chiron Extremes. What is it then that makes these two stand out from the crowd? And excuse the pun, but they are pretty extreme, especially when it comes to some of the details on the interior, which we're going to be taking a look at. And I think today heading out in both of them to tell you the story, the end of an era. Bugatti in its modern form started with the Veyron. That was record-breaking, dominating. The Chiron arrived back in February 2016. In fact, I was at the Geneva Motor Show to give you guys a first look, a walk around of the Bugatti Chiron, a car that we had been waiting to see. Fast forward, the Chiron Sport followed it up, a lighter weight car, new wheels, the carbon fiber windscreen wipers, and then of course we have some more special editions. The Pure Sport, for example, limited to only 60 cars, and this particular one has a bit of an Easter egg, a story that I want to share with you guys in a moment, and of course as well the Super Sport. Like with the Veyron, the record-breaking car again, reaching a top speed of 304.77 miles per hour. Now these two cars take it even further. When it comes to the details, which you've started to see and how they tie in together, they've been produced to be a matching pair, to take these special editions and to really put the icing on the cake. The Super Sport, of course, boasts the most powerful configuration, 1600 horsepower, a car that is all about being capable of massive power. But when you look at them, and of course there are some details that stand out immediately, right? Things like the matching design, the stripes that run over the top of the bodywork, and the way those are being painted and they fade in through the back. But there's so much more than that also. So I want to show you around the two cars very quickly. Before we're going to be joining Jeff to hop in, I think probably the Pure Sport first to show you a little bit more about it. The elephant in the room though, I've just got to say, we are surrounded by the likes of the Veyron Roadster. We've got the SVJ63 Coupe, Speciale, SV, Sabre, Cullinan, and there are a few other nice things around. Of course, this is where we were for the castle shoot. But we are talking about these today, the Super Sport and the Pure Sport. Starting over here though, Pure Sport in French translates to Pure Sport, the most dynamic version of the Bugatti Chiron. And I got to drive one for the first time at Bilsterberg out in Germany. I had to say it was truly impressive. A more aggressive front end. I mean, look at the size of the intakes, all of the airflow that's managed through to the radiators, the new wheels with the carbon surrounds, the aero blades that you can see wrapping around those, massive brakes that sit behind, and in the case of this car, the full exposed carbon fiber bodywork, leading us towards the X-Fighter style wing that you have fixed permanently back here at the rear. Quite a radical design, because Bugatti models traditionally had always had integrated active aero, a wing that would sit flush with the bodywork and rise for different functions. You've got that view through towards the engine, the 1500 horsepower of the 8-litre quad-turbo W16, and these are really a farewell to that motor, of course, with the Tourbillon now running a V16. Looking around further at the rear, the diffuser was enlarged. You've got those very prominent and aggressive exhaust tailpipes back here as well. But it's when it comes to the details on both the exterior and the interior that these cars really start to truly shine through. The idea with the Pure Sport and the red livery design that you can see here was to take the famous French racing blue colour and transition it into a red, and you can see the way this is absolutely vibrant with its saturation, matching through to the 16 that you have in the horseshoe grille at the very front as well, and transitioning over the top of the car towards this, the fade out to the exposed carbon. I'm not sure if you spotted that before, but it is absolutely stunning to see the way that design is done in person. Matching with that then over here, we've got the blue tinted carbon fiber and a few other details and differences that you'll notice. With the more aggressive exclusive design of the Persport. You have the wing at the back, the Bugatti text script that's written over the top of it. The Supersport offers a slightly different setup, a different style. This was, of course, all about aerodynamics, high speed. The design of the car itself mimics back to the EB110 Supersport with these openings that you can see here, for example. It has an elongated tail as we come around towards the rear of the car. It's almost stretched out at the back to help with the aero profile and, of course, with that stability at high speed. The active wing, the spoiler here that rises to function as both an air brake and also to help keep the car more stable. Down below, the exhaust tailpipes sit above each other to minimize the impact on the diffuser for the maximum effect of the airflow that's happening underneath the car. But then talk about the extreme. Look at the colors, look at the way the French racing blue paintwork fades over the top through to the blue carbon fiber on here. It is absolutely beautiful. The way this is designed, the way this is done is truly stunning. And that's before, as I mentioned, we get to the interiors of the car. Not only that, we've got the blue detailing here on the lower part of the mirrors. We've also got the horseshoe grille. You'll notice the different designs of the grills. On the Persport, it wouldn't quite work in exactly the same way. So there are these subtle differences to accentuate the two cars and give them slightly different appearances and personalities. Each of them are labelled as the Extreme, the Chiron Persport Extreme, and over on this side, the Chiron Supersport Extreme. But let's take a look inside, because this is where the magic truly happens. Inside here, they've never done this before. Look at the amount of carbon fiber. The footwells are fully carbon, the central tunnel, the whole of the bulkhead behind you, the ceiling inside, all carbon fiber, every single part inside this car, which would normally have been in a lovely leather or a different material like Alcantara, in this case, is all in carbon, completely made uniquely for these two examples of the Bugatti Chirons. Have a look in here as well. The same with the red contrasting like with the black of the other, but everything from the tunnel to the area behind, the sea that runs through the inside to match that same shape around the outside of the car as well, the badging in the very center. The details on this are out of this world incredible. I absolutely love it. You know how much I love my stories when it comes to cars like these. That's what Exclusive Car Registry is all about. For example, this collection where you can see the different models, understand more about them. But there's something when it comes to this Persport which had me and many others like me absolutely fascinated, because these cars are sequentially numbered effectively, the chassis numbers of them. They started at number 1 with some of the factory prototypes. There are about 5 of those in total before the first production spec car was number 8. They then continued sequentially all the way up to number 66. So you'd think this would be number 67. It is in fact number 70, which is quite interesting. Not that they filled in those extra gaps, just that they jumped to 70. And I wondered if there was a story behind that. Maybe we'll find out at some point in the future. Maybe you know, and if you do, please do share on ECR. But these are, of course, the last of their kind. They're not the last ever Bugatti Chirons in terms of chassis. In fact, number 500 of the 500 Chirons, which included the Supersports, the Persports as well, is in fact l'ultime, a special one-off that was made with the inverse paint colours of the first Chiron, the opposite way around, but with all sorts of special details and effects added into it. In fact, belonging to the first customer of a Bugatti Veyron. It has Veyron number 1 and Chiron number 500, and that's the kind of thing I absolutely love. Still has that car. They're now part of the same collection. These, though, were, as I mentioned, the last out of the factory. The previous car was, I believe, the Jacob & Co. Chiron Supersport that we saw recently as well, that was delivered. And then, in fact, those 3 plus the Hamilton Collections car, Steve Hamilton's Bugatti Chiron Supersport, were the last to come here to the United States as well, all traveling together. Needless to say, these are fascinating cars with so many details about them, but I think, given it's quite warm, it's about time to hop inside, get it started, go for a little run, and see what the Extreme is like. It's time then. Here with Jeff. How you doing?
Doing good, man. How about you?
I'm excited right now because it's not every day to experience this.
Well, I'm hoping it lives up to your expectations.
This is, of course, a car that you must have worked for quite some time. Oh, nice. To get the spec done, to get it all ready.
Yeah, for sure. It was a long process, but it all came out.
If I close the door properly, I always do that.
Just a little harder with it.
Too gentle.
Everyone tries to be so gentle. I'm like, it's a door. You have it, just like you would close your regular car door. You gotta close the door.
And it's not really just a door, it's also a Bugatti door, so it's kind of made, it's made properly, we could say,
yes.
You know?
Yeah.
But,
all right.
yeah. Let's a cool place to be. Out here, we'll go get out onto the roads. Even the key to match, of course. The details, it's all about the details, isn't it? While we're just cruising in the neighborhood here, Chiron in tow of Chiron, the thing that you always notice in a Bugatti, right, is how smooth it is.
Very much so. It's got that luxurious drive, so smooth and incredibly comfortable.
Easy going, not the extreme at the moment. Although I have to say, you guys have done some good mileage on these.
Yeah, it was delivered maybe 4 weeks ago, and we already have 1,500 miles put on the card. Now, granted, we had a nice road trip in California up the coast to Car Week in these two beasts, but yeah, 1,500 miles is a pretty good
It's a good
number.
effort.
Yeah,
And due the first service already.
it certainly is.
The view behind is just awesome. Even better when there's a Chiron Super Sport back there as well, underneath the wing.
You get a good view of it in the mirror. It has the nice pass-through tunnel, so you can really see it.
So have you gravitated more to one than the other, or do you?
I've actually mostly driven this one. Sparky tends to enjoy the blue one. I don't think he's driven this one much, so it's not been a lot of back and forth in terms of trading off.
Makes sense.
He found what he liked or wanted to drive, so he chose that one. I haven't driven it too much yet, so I can't say one is better than the other or I like it more than the other just yet. But
So talk to me then, with all of this carbon, and obviously I'm looking down here in the footwells and the whole floor is carbon. It's got like these rubber strips. Everything's been made specifically for these cars. Like this was something you guys commissioned.
correct. These are the only two that have and will have this interior to our knowledge and what we were told at the time.
But does that mean in here though, slightly less sound deadening and more sound from it?
From what I know and from what the engine has sounded like, it does sound a little bit more clear, and it doesn't sound like you're losing that noise when you get higher in the RPMs. It definitely has a lot more of that grunt right on stage and center.
Yeah, makes sense, because driving like this, it's so civilized, it's so peaceful, isn't it?
Yeah, it has such a smooth demeanor when it needs to, but when you flip the switch and you start really getting at it and you hit the loud pedal, it really gets up and goes. It wakes you up and it says, I'm here.
It
lets you know.
It sounds to me like we need to find a bit of highway where we can do exactly that and drop some gears and get some swooshes and quad turbo noises.
Sounds like a plan.
Gosh. I love that lift-off noise, the swooshes that you get from this. And it's so much more even if you lightly open the window as well. Spend enough time in these, although when you put your foot flat, as you probably know, it closes the windows.
I haven't had that issue yet.
As soon as you stamp on the throttle,
That makes sense. That makes sense, but I haven't done that quite yet.
It's always been a Bugatti thing.
Yeah, there it goes.
Sounds amazing.
And close the windows. Yeah.
After a little bit of traffic, we've ended up behind the Super Sport. I love how you see the lines coming over the top of the car.
Yeah, it's a really nice detail. The color pops just enough off the carbon that you get all of it, even from behind, without being that high up.
Yeah.
And it's just a really nice thing to see.
Unfortunately, not enough of an open road to enjoy the tunnel right now.
No, I guess it's rush hour at lunch.
Lunchtime rush hour.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of sunny, but it's also kind of raining, which is not ideal, and also people alongside. I think it's, yeah, you're not going to be hiding when you're driving something like this, right?
No, you get it all the time for sure, and I'm sure you get plenty of it in your own collection when you're out and driving. Maybe for other reasons than just because you're in a nice car, but
yeah. Unfortunately, rain, but that doesn't stop the fun. You guys like to drive.
yeah, I mean, weather has not stopped us at any point. A number of our other cars even have tires for the winter, so that we can take it out sub 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Not sure off the top of my head what that is for Celsius.
Cold.
Yes,
couple of degrees.
little chilly, but yeah, rain, even light snow, we're still out if we can be.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. That's what it's for driving. We've pulled into a parking garage. Gonna get a bite to eat. Double bugs. Look at that thing. Really cool. Deep rumble. W16. End of an era. Something kind of fun about a used car, right? Used hypercar like this. Looking the part. We're back. It's car swap time. Super Sport. Ready
to get on the way.
Try out this one. Gosh, I love the colors inside here. It's a much brighter, more vibrant interior on this.
It certainly is.
Sounds equally good. Got the door right this time.
Yeah, look at that. No, got it closed first try.
And hopefully it's not going to be too wet and rainy on us. Fingers crossed. Right, out we go. That was quite a funny thing. If you just walked in here, if you're just a normal person coming in for your lunch, and you walk into this parking garage.
I mean, in this garage alone, sometimes there are some absolute gems if you come on like a Friday night or Saturday night, but not to this degree.
I mean, a couple of days ago at the hotel just outside, there were 4 Koenigseggs and a Pagani and a 4 GT.
That's fair.
Even this morning, actually, there was a Purosangue there and a 750S. So, nice place to be. Good place to car spot. The funny thing here, though, with the weather, is that you guys don't mind. You're just driving the cars, whatever. I mind, because I wanted to take some photos of them, and they're going to be filthy by the time we get back.
If you saw them during Car Week, you would have seen that they were extremely bad. Driving them up the coast of California there, they picked up a lot of stuff.
Well, everything gets a load of dust, and then there's a bit of moisture in the air, which settles, and then the dust gets all those spots and looks a bit like...
And then everything else sticks to it as well, and just as it builds on itself, it starts looking kind of bad. Forgot the quick detail at home, but they survived. I'm sure some people were very confused why they were so filthy. But
in fact, as I mentioned earlier, 750S and a Turbo S.
Yeah, would you look at that?
Bang on cue. The funky thing with these cars, I can tell you, even though this is wet and greasy out here, if you were to stamp on it, it would still just go. Like, I'm sure you've had plenty of experience driving them. Yeah.
It just goes.
Case in point. I don't know if they knew what lane. Oh, she was on the phone. That was the case in point, right? Instant traction, instant go, even on Cup 2Rs, even though it's slightly wet.
Yeah, the car's traction is just that good.
Oh, more traffic jams.
It's all right. We'll take some other fun roads back once we can get a little closer.
Well, it's kind of my fault. I've dragged you guys out and chosen the worst possible day to do it. We've got ourselves the tunnel. Linking, I don't know what to say. The pull of that.
With it only being about maybe 20-30% down.
It shoves you back into these seats.
It does. It really does. It's all the turbos just kicking in. Even at just a little RPM, it just takes off.
I'm sorry that the camera was just kind of fixed this way because I was a bit
stuck.
I was a bit stunned. That was the test. You know, if you put like a $100 bill on the dash and accelerate and challenge the person to reach it, and in this car they've got absolutely no hope. The acceleration is silly. Like 1 second and takeoff has begun. It's absolutely silly. Have we lost the Bespoke?
Yeah, they look a little stuck back. I see them back there, but just with how the traffic worked out, they look a little bit farther back than they should be.
That's so cool. 2 cars together. Actually, to have gone from one to the other and see the differences. Like, it's fun as well, right, for you guys to see the cars from the other one.
Yeah. There we go.
Nice. Look at that, with these two rolling together.
It's amazing how different these two are visually, even though they are at the same point very similar. So it's a cool thing to get them side by side.
Driving with these two together, this is just the coolest thing. Two Chiron Extremes in the world. Is it the only car that Bugatti gave a name like this? Because the Profile is its own car, right? This is the name of the car.
From what I know, at least, this is the only ones that have the badging to back it up that aren't their own thing.
Like everything else, even
it's hard to say. I can't speak because there's obviously 500 cars, so
who knows
you never know. There might be one car hidden away somewhere that that has something similar. But from what I know, I think they are.
That's cool. Obviously, these are two different cars, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that, like driving?
So you can definitely feel. Sorry. You can feel a little bit in the gearing and the suspension and the power that the two have, and specifically with the Super Sport compared to the Per Sport, even just trying to get high enough in the RPM range so you can get the real grunt of the W16, you're gonna be going highway speeds in first gear before you actually get the proper note out. So they're geared completely differently, right? Because to reach the top speed of this, it needs to have the full long gearing. And the Per Sport, to be more dynamic, they gave it super short gearing. Correct, and it's something that's very noticeable between the two.
Yeah. So literally, this is one of those things that normally you can't explain, but when you've hopped straight from one into the other, you get that direct back to back.
Yep.
Like it feels, I can tell you from the passenger seat, like when you do the little pulls in here versus earlier, it just feels like it keeps going in here.
Yeah, it's just going, and you're like, wait, where do I shift? Where do I shift? Because it's still just going, it's still climbing.
Still pulling away, still a pretty intense feeling, really. What a view. What a view. What a thing to be riding in. What a car to understand. Oh, that's the key, which I now have here. Very nice. Through the trees. It's about as European as the US gets, the roads around here.
Narrow and in the woods, yeah. Like you just get to start hearing that grunt in the engine and you just can't quite hit the notes that it properly makes.
So you've obviously done a lot of driving between the Koenigsegg, Pagani's, and now the Bugattis. How do you feel with them, being in that position, lucky to drive them all?
It's amazing how so many different philosophies can be taken to get very different products at the end of the day. And it's amazing because anytime anyone asks you to compare the two or three or however many, they're non-comparable. It's apples to oranges to grapes to zucchini. Like
it's like, these things aren't the same. It's one of the hardest things. Something like the Agera RS is super raw and super aggressive and just mad. Something like the Pagani's is actually more about the dynamic drive than you might realize.
Yep.
Like the way it's set up, the way it rides, the way you interact with the pedals. And this is more about that effortless class and I don't even know how to describe it, like formality. It's like
you're exactly right on. It's so foreign to be expected from a car with this much power and yet have it be so smooth and effortless and elegant where you would expect it to be visceral and violent.
Yeah. Whereas in here, it's genuinely fantastic. You know, Bugatti have that line, if comparable, it's no longer a Bugatti.
I haven't heard it, but I'm going to believe it.
Yeah, a Bugatti is a Bugatti. There's nothing else that is quite like this. We've returned. My Fords are here, by the way. And we're coming back out to this view. What a view that is. Amazing. Wow, thank you very much.
Of course.
That was epic. The two Extremes are now parked up where they were earlier on, and it's drying here very quickly. Notice the GT3 RS is now back in the lineup as well. But something interesting about that, check out the marks from the cars, the shadows, the damp shadows down below, which is actually because of the sun that was on the tarmac earlier heating it up, but not where they were. So while we've been out on the road and having lunch, obviously this area has been rained on and it hasn't dried yet. I'm sure it will very shortly, but still kind of funky to see that. These two, however, are really, really amazing examples of this generation of Bugatti. Obviously the Tourbillon era is a new chapter in Bugatti's story with Mathieu Rimac and the Bugatti Rimac story, but these have been, you know, brought to their very finest examples at the end of the line. You look at this carbon work and you look at that paint that fades through over the rear of the deck back there, and as the interiors have shown us the extent they've gone to personalize these and make them really, really special. Both cars now in their handling modes, where it lowers the suspension, they sit a little lower down towards the ground, but two very different cars to experience. The shorter, snappier drive of the Pur Sport, akin to the ultimate in high end, and to be honest, the extra power that you feel in the Super Sport as well. Just different things, but both spectacular in their own rights. Something that really fascinates me when it comes to ECR, and particularly these types of cars, right, is that take the Chiron Pur Sport, all 60 of these appear on the platform. At the point of delivery of the very last one to leave the Atelier in France, all 60 of them have been out there. They've been to different events, they've been driven, they've been shared, and it says something about this model itself. Of course, when it's 60 cars, it's, I'm going to say, easy enough to understand all of the different models. It's fascinating to browse through and take a look at all of the different specs and things that people have chosen. Obviously, this being the absolute height of uniqueness, creating something totally bespoke. But even with the Super Sports, this is one of the things about ECR. When Bugatti introduced the Super Sport at the Chiron, it wasn't specifically limited by number, but rather that customers could choose which model they would go for. So you'd never really know how many of them were actually built. But of course, with so many being spotted, whether that's on the streets in Molsheim in France when they're being assembled and built, or of course being shared on social media once owners have taken delivery, you get a better understanding of all of the different specs. And again, really interesting to take a look through. At the moment, it's believed to be, I think, about 114 or so cars. Of course, the 60 of those, the other models as well, leaving a little over 300 of the base, I'm going to call it, Chiron. I can hear some thunder. The heavy rain is probably coming back. But today, to come up to join Jeff, Scott and Sparky to go and understand a little bit more of the story of these, what makes these two quite so special as the last ones that left from France, and to be able to share that with you as well, to understand more of the specs, the ideas behind them, the reasons. Two incredible cars, an amazing day to come out here as well, and just feasting eyes a little bit on what else is around. But you know what, for today, I think we best wrap that up before this weather gets nasty again. So thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, I'll pop all of the links down below. Do go follow the guys also, but that is it for this time, and I will see you again very soon. Cheers.